Whoa, 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 whoa. I'm quite clear on what you're going to do with the hat and the scarf and the coal, but what are you going to do with that carrot again?
Oh, always a corker. Thanks, Eric.
No problem. My pleasure. My pleasure. We look a bit stylish today, Robert.
That we do. We're trying.
Yeah, I like
Good
it.
morning, all, and welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good day, and welcome to yet another edition of the Digital Download, the longest running weekly business talk show on LinkedIn.
Fact.
Facts. Today's episode, we're going to talk about networking for your next job. It's not who you know, it's not what you know, it's who knows what you know. So, what are you going to do about it? We believe this is a particularly relevant topic today. So, go ahead and tag your friends, get them to come in and join the conversation. We want to hear from you as well. Go ahead, tag them. We'll
And
wait.
if you know anybody who's been laid off, then
Or is that a kind of a career crossroads?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As I said, we'll wait.
Oh, you're actually going to wait until people.
I'm getting this in. We are not going to wait. Okay, so let's start with introductions. We'll go around the horn. Mr. Doyle, would you kindly introduce yourself?
So in your geographical time zones, it's good afternoon here in Aberdeen, Scotland. My name is Eric Doyle, founder of Crux, and we are partnered with all of these lovely people, but namely with DLA Ignite, Digital Commercial Advisors.
Thank you.
Nice.
Alex.
Good afternoon. Merry Christmas. Cheers. Great to be here. So I'm Alex Abbott, founder of Supero, and I am a proud DLA partner.
Thank you. Lenwood.
Hi, I'm Lenwood Ross, CEO and founder of Acceleree, and we are also a DLA Ignite partner here in New York City.
We have a little issue with your connection, Mr. Ross. You're kind of cutting in and out.
Oh, really?
A little bit, yeah. Your audio's out of sync with yourself, but I'm sure it'll be all right. I'm sure it'll work out.
You're not using Safari, are you?
No.
Okay.
Rob. Elton Foister has just tagged in Rickard. Might be Richard, but Rickard's a cool name. Rickard Dahlman or Richard Dahlman.
Excellent. Welcome.
Yeah.
And Tim, please.
Yes, thank you, Rob. It's great to be here. My name's Tim Hughes. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. And I'm really excited to talk about this stuff today because I think it's really relevant for people. And the whole point of this is that we share skills with people and we bring everybody up in terms of their digital skills. I think great subject.
Excellent. Thank you.
I like that. Safari so goody. Sorry.
Very good. Very good.
And I'm Rob Durant, founder of Flywheel Results and a proud DLA partner. So, as we've already mentioned, layoffs are a big part of what's going on right now. And sadly, the belief is it's only going to get worse before it gets better. Now, we know that layoffs actually hurt organizations in the long term. Just yesterday, Tim was sharing with us a Harvard Business Review article stating the same. And I had read something earlier in the week talking about SaaS companies and the revenue generated by those that did not have layoffs versus those organizations that did. I also read something yesterday that the layoffs are really more of a social contagion. That is, companies are laying off people, not necessarily because they don't have the financial wherewithal to keep them, but because that's what everyone else is doing. So Much as we may dismay the fact that the layoffs hurt the people, of course, the organizations, they're going to continue. So here we are. And we are going to be here to help. Let's talk a little bit about job hunting in the digital age. First, let me start with some old school basics. What is the worst advice you've ever been given when it comes to a job hunt, a resume, a cover letter, or what have you? Anyone care to jump in there?
I don't have worst advice, but I do have a worst practice, which I haven't personally seen, but in my corporate law days, a friend of mine. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
But when you touch your mic, we get a kind of booming sound.
Okay. How's it? Okay now.
That's very good.
Okay, so a friend of mine who runs the licensing group in the legal department of a global company, brand, huge brand. I won't say what the company is, but it's a huge brand. They've had iconic commercials for years. Had a resume come to him with a blatant falsehood. A discoverable lie. And what I mean by that is this person had lied on his resume, and it was easy to find out that what he had written on there was a lie.
Oh.
Don't ever do that. You never know who knows who, and who might be able to discover what you think is an undiscoverable lie.
It never ceases to amaze me. In this day and age, we still need to tell people, don't lie. We're all 6 degrees away from, well, the rest of the world, if not closer.
2 clicks away from the truth.
2 clicks, if that.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the worst advice I was ever given, Rob, was someone who said, don't do anything proactively. All you needed to do was sit back and recruitment consultants or headhunters would sort it out all for you.
Yeah, that's horrible advice.
Just
Well, I
flat.
guess-
Sorry, carry on, Tim.
I was going to say, but I guess that's why we're talking about this, isn't it?
Yeah.
Big time. Just in case you can't see it, Rob, Jess Flack has said the worst advice: use one-click apply on LinkedIn. I'm not even sure that companies open the application. If you've got one arrow and multiple targets, the likelihood is you won't hit anything. I like that.
All right.
I like that a lot.
I, as a LinkedIn recruiting user, might suggest that you do not simply eliminate that from the opportunity. But I would strongly advocate for not relying on that. You never know which recruiter is going to read it and which isn't. But yes, the one-click apply makes it so much easier for candidates that you've got 10x, if not 100x, the type of competition you would otherwise. Rob,
can I just say, if you're not seeing any of the comments, get so at the moment, audience, Rob can't see any of the comments. So you're commenting and Rob can't see you. So he can't bring the comments across the bottom. Can I make a suggestion that you go and follow or watch this on Rob Durant's LinkedIn profile? Then you should be able to see your comments.
Good idea. Good idea.
I just wanted to make that intervention because otherwise we get loads of comments and then the audience goes, well, they're not bringing my stuff up, and then they go away. And this is right. Interactive. So sorry to butt in and say that. But
I'm grateful for it.
But Rob, so Jess, Elton, Sherry, Andrew, if you could go and watch it on Rob Durant's profile, then the comments should come through.
And if you can't find them or you don't want to leave, we'll just read them out.
Yeah,
that works too. Excellent.
Worst piece of advice I ever got was a senior leader when I was a youngster read my CV and said, you don't have enough oomph and horsepower in here. You need to be talking about how much of a globally focused solutions provider, lifelong learning, like best in class, world leading. You need all these buzzwords in there. That's what the recruiters really home in on. So pack a paragraph up front saying how much of a, like Alan Sugar on, he'll be reading those things when he's looking at candidates on his show. What's it called again? The Alan Sugar show, the You're Fired. What's that one called?
Right.
What's that one called again? The Apprentice. You've got to be think like The Apprentice. Put yourself. I'm a globally focused, lifelong, sensitive listening. All the features and benefits about you, stick them up front. That the recruitment and hiring staff love that stuff.
I saw the one up of that as advice. So, are you familiar with the old SEO keyword stuffing?
Yes.
Somebody said, take all of the keywords for your industry, put them on the bottom of your resume in 1-point type in white on a white background.
There you go. Guaranteed you're going to get that.
So isn't that advice nowadays, because there's so much AI being used in recruitment?
Absolutely.
A lot of companies they're not looking at CVs. They're basically just scanning them with a tool. And that tool is obviously searching for something.
Right.
So what you're trying to do is second guess keywords because you know that the AI is going to pick that up.
Just simply go onto the target company's website, copy their about section, and put that in as your CV.
Well, meanwhile, they give you the roadmap in the job description itself. All of the buzzwords are there.
Absolutely. My goodness me. I love when you see must have. What was there a guy that said must have at least 20 years experience in digital marketing? He said he saw that and he's like, 20 years experience in digital marketing. What are you talking about? All these things must have 15 years experience, must have at least 20 million years of experience in this chosen sector. And it's like, so if I don't have 15 years experience, although I'm probably the best hire on the planet for this job, I can't apply. It's ridiculous, all these barriers that put in there.
Right. So let's go with the converse. What's the best advice you've ever been given?
I'm gonna jump in here. The best advice I ever got, and I give it out to everyone, is create humanized resumes, humanized CVs. Now, I actually got into this before I learnt about the whole, I was still very much in corporate mode when I learnt this, but I actually gave that advice to a young graduate who had sent me a CV, and it was like just a brochure of how great I am and how skilled I am. And he wasn't getting any success with it. And I said, if you write this as if you're writing to a human being in humanized text, in conversational style, we're not talking about being sloppy or being unprofessional, but just write your experience as a conversation, as almost like the pages of the novel to your commercial life. And then give us the sort of preface or preface up front in a conversational way. It's just like what we spoke about last week. You will appeal to different tenets of their brain, and you'll appeal to if you can get some sort of creative stuff in there and some color in there and some nice conversational tones going on. The person will feel as if they're having a conversation with a human. So just like the way we write our content, just like the way we should be putting our business communications out there, if you write your resumes and CVs as if you're writing to a human who's got hopes, fears, desires, thoughts, a heart, and all of that, and actually write it in a more conversational style, relaxed but not unprofessional, it tends to hit different tenets. That was one of the best pieces of advice I ever got. So I remember I was looking for a particular job with a particular company, and I wrote them a lovely letter in a humanistic way, and I reconfigured my entire CV to be conversational, like a sort of a beautiful walk through my commercial life in a conversational style, like the pages of my commercial autobiography, as if I was talking to the person in a coffee shop, and clicked like that. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Isn't that, wouldn't you extend that same logic to the LinkedIn profile? Just in terms of, I've been doing some market research and actually talking to recruiters a lot lately, and they always look at the LinkedIn profile. So if they look at a resume, they're going to look at the LinkedIn profile to understand more about the candidate that they're making a determination about whether they should go to the next step. So having a LinkedIn profile that is humanized in the same way that Eric just described for the resume is going to help you tremendously, because they're not just looking at your skills, but one of the biggest things they're looking for in addition to skills is whether you're a fit for the culture of the organization. So it's and this is kind of going a little bit beyond what I initially intended to say, but the matching process is exactly that. So the additional piece of advice that I would give is not to just send out a mass of, that's probably like the thing that I did that was the wrong thing to do. But this was early on when I just first started looking for a job. It was like send out like 200 resume. Anybody that if you are a law firm, you got a resume for me. When I first started, you only need one job. So looking very carefully at organizations that you are going to be not only a skill fit but a cultural fit is worth the investment. And then focusing on just a few where you think from what they're putting out and what their employees are putting on social media that you're a fit for that organization, and really targeting your approach, I think, is probably the best.
I only need one
You
job.
have
I think that's tying it all together, taking the resume. I mean, this is important, right? Exactly what you said. You only need one job, and that one job needs you as well, right? So if you're tying together, I love the whole idea of tying everything together, tying your resume and all the digital proof of you as an individual, all tying together to all resonate, connect, and harmonize with each other. Beautiful, right?
Yeah.
Alex, you were going to say something.
Well, Eric pretty much said the same thing. Have one complement the other. So the times that you see a LinkedIn profile and the CV is a copy of that. Actually, there are things that you can put on your LinkedIn profile, but there are extra pieces of detail that can go into the CV. If you're in sales, for example, it might be your numbers. But you wouldn't necessarily, in terms of performance, you wouldn't necessarily put that on your LinkedIn profile because it's a little bit, show offy.
So let me ask this. I was going to go in a different direction, but I've heard CV come up a couple of times. What's the average length of a CV?
Well, it should be one page.
Okay.
Well, I
Not
would
a
say
resume.
that varies. It depends on your level of experience. So,
Right.
If you've got a 25-year career and you can boil it down to one page.
Well, okay, 1.5 pages then.
Yeah. So, that actually goes to another point that a very experienced recruiter said, that, there is that out there. Keep it to one page, particularly if you're junior. Maybe it's going to be 2 or 3 pages when you get to be a little bit more senior. A recruiter is going to be expecting that. I guess what I would add to that is, actually, I'm not going to say it because I think it's going to come up later, and I'll add it then.
I agree with Jess and Beth that I always thought it was 2 pages.
Okay.
And as Jess says, Beth? It should be 1 page, but it's apparently 2.
The reason I ask is because I always thought CV equals resume until one day somebody pointed out to me, a CV is not a resume. A CV is a list of everything you've ever done in detail. So I have seen some CVs, 3, 4, 5 pages, and I just kind of shrug. That is what it is. That's a cultural thing. Whereas the resume is ideally 1 page, maybe 1.5 pages, and that is a boiled down, succinct story of why you are relevant to the job that you're applying for. It's not about you and everything you've ever done. I don't need to know about your newspaper route in high school, but it is about what you've done that is relative to the job that you're applying for now.
Wow,
So
that's great advice.
I ask, is a CV a resume, or are they two different things?
I thought
Just
one was
like-
American,
just
the
like-
other was English.
Jess Black is saying a CV should be 2 pages. 1 is a resume.
Okay.
So I think we're thinking here now in British talk that we're talking about the cover letter and the CV. Is that right?
That's
So the
what it
cover
sounds
letter
like.
is the resume.
Yep. And speaking of bad advice, the bad advice out there is don't bother with a cover letter. They don't get read anyway. I would say don't bother with a bad cover letter. Your
Yeah.
cover letter should be customized to each and every job that you're applying for. Your resume should be customized to the type of role that you're applying for. So your resume will transfer across different applications. But your cover letter is your opportunity to say why you are the right fit for this specific role. It's not that you shouldn't write them. And true, often they don't get read, but can you tell me in advance which recruiter is going to read it and which isn't?
The LinkedIn user, if you can let us know who you are, because you're coming in as LinkedIn user, we can fix that. We can help you with that. The hardest part is to get through the automated application processing system. Personally, a CV is a list of skills, but does not and cannot express your personal attributes. I developed a short presentation to illustrate myself as the individual, the skills, the key wow factors, and the experience I am bringing.
Video.
Yeah, very interesting. The applicant processing system and getting past that is I think that's a significant point. I think there's probably more than one way to get past that applicant tracking system. And I'm
Knowing the CEO.
Yeah.
knowing the CEO. Well, that's how they tell you to do it at McKinsey. But I think that I'm not trying to change subjects, but this issue of the applicant tracking system and how you make sure that you get into the queue with the recruiters is a significant issue. I think there's maybe 2 sub issues to that. One is the recruiter. And this, or maybe flipping them. One is networking and the recruiter that you're dealing with. So based on some of the research that I'm doing, you may be better off. Might be controversial, but you may be better off actually networking with more experienced recruiters who are more likely to be suspect. I think that's the way I want to say it, of the applicant tracking system. In other words, what basically the point I'm making here is that younger recruiters will tend to rely more on the applicant tracking system because of their belief in the AI technology, that it is actually giving them better candidates. More experienced recruiters who will ask questions to gain more inference about who you are, they are more suspicious of the applicant tracking system. So networking and getting to those more experienced recruiters might help you to get past the applicant tracking system. Hopefully that wasn't too convoluted. I tried to make it simple.
You're bringing us all the way back around to where we started. So thank you for that, Lenwood. As I said at the onset, it's not who you know. It's not what you know. It's who knows what you know. So how do I, as a professional, whether I'm in market for a new job right now, out of work, or just working on my career in general, work on networking without that icky networking aftertaste?
I think there's something beautiful about what's happened in the world with digital coming into all aspects of life. I mean, it used to be back in the day that we would get into a job. I went down electrical engineering route, and my sphere of vision about the world was fairly limited. It was limited to newspapers, TVs, and what was on the radio, magazines, maybe trade magazines, maybe going to the occasional event or something like that. So my vision of industry was very limited, very short sighted, because we didn't have the access to the globe and what's going on there. Cut to 2022, and if you're sitting here, you've got 360 degrees behind, in front, up, down, inside, around, in every sector, every market, and every organization you could ever hope to want to see through digital and through social media. And not only that, back in the day, I wonder what it's like to work with Company X. I have no way of knowing unless I know someone who works there. We're as potential recruits or potential people who want to join organizations, we can actually sense so much about an organization digitally now that we can begin to actually pick and choose. I know what it's like. I sense, I feel, I taste, and I can experience what the culture's like there because I can see it. It's on social media. It's there for me to see. Or it's invisible. It's invisible. So I love the fact that we can, as modern professionals now, have that access and accessibility inside organizations to the point where we get this complete 360-degree view. And if you are in a position where you're looking for a new role or just looking at crossroads in your career, the amount of information and data on where we can go is now, I don't know, times a million, times a billion, a trillion what it was before. And I know personally some people who, because of social, have said, right, instead of just I'm looking for a new job, I really want to work with that organization because of what's happening on social. I really want to work with them. I'm going to connect with people inside that organization. I'm going to bring them into my network. I'm going to, with content and with my behavior and my activity with them, I'm going to form relationships with them. I know people who have got themselves a job when there wasn't a job advertised.
Yeah.
Just because
Yeah.
they were there, present, and got themselves into conversations. Why don't you come in and talk to us? Because you're really interesting to us. Do you know what? Conversations, once they leave the room, I think that person should be in this organization. We could have them doing this. They could creating new roles that didn't even exist before. I mean, we are at such an exciting phase of. I guess the crux of this, the point of this is, we don't just need to be going from okay, I'm a project manager, so and I'm a project manager in a very specific market, in a specific sector. I'm going to spend the next 40 years just bimbling about, going from job to job in that sector because that's what you do. We don't have to do that anymore. The world is wide open. The planet is wide open.
I'm talking to somebody right now who got their job by sending an email, a connection request to the CEO, and pitched herself. And what they've bought into is the skills that she brings. Unsurprisingly, she was trained by us, but it's a cheap advert. Sorry, but she's got this job by contacting.
This is the
CEO.
cheap advert.
That's the one.
That's an even cheaper advert.
What you say, Eric, is true. She wanted to work in a particular organization. She went online and she researched them, and she knew what she needed to do, and she contacted the CEO, and they've created a job for her.
Yeah, there you go. It's almost limitless, right?
It's amazing that you can, and I mean, Eric, you said it all, really. So, but let's say it again, right?
Yes.
So for people that your if you want to call it personal brand, I know that term is used a lot, but it's it's your LinkedIn profile and your activities on social media, what you can do to give a really broad picture of who you are and your experience and how that might match up with an organization. I mean, you can do so much, and make that instead of the send out a 200 resumes and the sit back and see, or the clicking on the apply now 50 times a day. You can really do something that's much richer in terms of the content that you create and how you present yourself on a daily basis, really building a portfolio for those targeted organizations that you might like to work for their people to see you on social media. That's going to help you get a job much, much quicker than some of the traditional ways that we might think of when we're trying to get a new job.
Yeah. The other side of the coin, of course, is which companies you don't want to work for when you see all of the news, the layoffs on social media. I mean, who wants to work at some of these tech companies that are laying off 10, 15% of their workforce or more?
Yeah, they're laying off people when they have, in some cases, tens of billions of dollars just sitting in the bank. And yet the reasoning behind their decision to lay off is to cut costs. Well, if they're cutting costs for one reason. And that, well, I don't want to, I might like to have some of these folks as a client, but so I won't go too hard. I won't go too hard, but you look at the focus on short-term numbers for Wall Street, and you tie that to the equity compensation that many executives get, and you can't help but say, "Hey, what's really going on here?" And I think that is the point. I mean, that specific point was not the point. That his name is Professor Jeffrey Pfeffer. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, at Stanford Business School. He's the one that said, hey, these companies have plenty of money to ride out the storm on to ride out whatever economic storm might be ahead. Most economists are saying a mild recession in the US. I know there's a recession in Europe, which is you guys have a slightly different circumstance than we do. But the point is, these companies have plenty of money, and the layoffs are going to hurt them from a reputational standpoint, and they're not going to help the organization in the long term. So why are they doing it? What is the? And he says it's just social contagion. One starts laying off, then board members who are somewhat out of touch in some cases come in and they say, well, they're laying off people. How come we're not laying off people? And so the layoffs begin.
For any of those potential clients of Lenwood's that are offended by his statements, I will happily work with you.
What is this?
But it's great, like Lenwood. It's a great point. And Tim, you kindly shared an article with us ahead of this session called "What Companies Still Get Wrong About Layoffs" by Sandra Susha and Marilyn Morgan. There's a piece in there. I haven't finished reading the whole thing, but there's a piece in there about and Lenwood, I think, was touching on this, the overall cost of the layoffs and the value that is being thrown away in terms of knowledge and IP, and the cost of then rehiring and reteaching. You would think in the boardroom that comes into the calculation. I mean, how you calculate that, I don't know, and I don't know if it goes into more detail in the piece that you shared. But
as you know, Lenwood won't quote that because it's Harvard.
Shoddy, right? But the fact is, I've never worked for the enormous corporates, but I have been in the boardroom as a board member with SMEs, right? When we've suffered some rough water, it might be that the markets that we focus on are collapsing. Therefore, there's a collapse that's reversed back onto us. We're seeing pipeline shrinkage, forecast shrinkage. We've got financial problems. The banks are getting itchy. The investors are getting itchy. So a couple of times we've had those kind of like choppy seas. And we've sat down and said, right, okay, we're a reasonably well-run organization. We have the amount of people that we need to survive to deliver on the projects that we have. But we need to cut costs. So I've sat there with the board and we've said, if we have to get to the point, it's not right at the bottom, but our bottom quarter of cuts is in people, because we have to save costs in other areas of the business. Because the moment that we get into layoffs, we're in serious trouble, because we're not just laying off job descriptions, we're laying off people with families, people with mortgages and bills. We're also laying off and watching people walk out of the door that have all the skills and experience and nuance and personality that we need in this organization to be successful. So if we cut into that, boy, are we in trouble. Boy, are we in trouble. So the calculation, I'm not talking about the big corporates that are doing the thousands of layoffs, but the calculation always starts with where are we hemorrhaging cash that we could save upon that's not going to impact our ability to deliver. So we'll then look at assets. We'll start to look at the bills that we're continually paying. We'll go around each department or each function and ask them to take, what are the things that we can do without? What are the subscriptions that we can do without? What are the big chunky things that we're paying for every month that we could cut for 3 months, 6 months? And actually, it's not going to kill us. We're still going to be able to operate. It's going to upset some people. I always think that's really funny when you switch something off in an organization that everyone says that they need. It's so important that we have that, and no one complains. No one complains because it was just a nice to have. But so you start to work through all of those things. If you get to the point where you're saying, right, we need to reduce 30% of our labor in an SME that's reasonably well run, no board member is taking that lightly at all. No board member is taking that lightly at all. It's the last thing you want to do is cut into your people. But I've also worked with organizations that are like, right, alarms are ringing, commercial alarms are ringing, we need to cut the staff. Like, that's the first thing we're going to do is cut the staff. And we're like, but we're already struggling. We're already at service failure point on projects right now. How are we going to deliver what we have? We need a 25% reduction in staff. Each department, 25% gone. And that will solve our cash flow problem. It never does.
Well, not to the result they want.
No.
When did people become a cost center?
Oh, that's actually a great question, Rob, and a very fair point. There are a few books out actually about the 90s and Jack Welch's role in basically the financialization of America and his brutal focus on labor as a cost. And that's really where you begin to see organization. Well, I don't know if that's where you begin to see. I don't know if that's where you begin to see, but really Jack Welch, as some of the GE's practices, and you look at that firm now, boy, it's too bad. But his focus on labor as a cost and shipping labor, at least in the United States, overseas, decimating the manufacturing in middle of the United States. I mean, so that would be my direct answer to your question, Rob.
But I've also just on Lenwood's point, I've also been in the boardroom where we as directors and shareholders in the company have been sitting there saying, we need to protect the staff. We need to protect the staff. We need to do this. We need to make cuts elsewhere. Even if we all take salary cuts, that's fine. That's what we're here for as directors, to take the load, the pain of the company. And we've had from the chairman, who's an external chairman, who is like, who's like, gentlemen and ladies, can I have your attention, please? I'm a chairman, an external chairman. I'm here to throw buckets of water over you people because you're all getting a little bit too romantic here. You know, we have a spreadsheet, and on that spreadsheet, there is the cost of our people. Our people are assets, just like the machines, the buildings, and everything else. We need to be cold about this. And that's when my skin gets a bit kind of prickly, because I've never harmonized with that. That's why I'll probably never be a good chairman. because I've also and then the attention has changed from stop thinking of people. A chairman once said to me, stop thinking of these people in this organization as your friends and as human beings. They are just machines, just like the printing press, just like the computers. If we need to cut them, it's just like getting rid of cost.
Yeah.
That's the hard line when, you know, there are those conversations going on in organizations. It doesn't harmonize well with me and probably not well with others on this call, but it's the kind of thinking that's out there in the corporate world. I don't know if it's right.
I agree. That's definitely the thinking that's out there in the corporate world. There are many executives who that's how they view it. I would say that the world is very different today than it was in 1990. And so the calculation has to be different. And that was one of the things that this Harvard Business Review article talked about, that the reputational risk is much greater today because news travels instantaneously. Look at the impact of Elon Musk's behavior as it relates to Twitter, whether it be customers, talent, potential partners, of all of everything basically that he's doing being front page news and also bannered about on Twitter nearly in real time.
But would you now choose, like if any of us had the choice and it was Twitter or somewhere else to work, you know, I feel like because of what's happened in the way it's happened, I wouldn't choose to work at Twitter if I had the choice.
I don't know if we have enough information. There's a lot of headlines. There's a lot of deep fakes. There's a lot of things going on, and a new owner has the right to reconfigure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the thing is that Elon Musk didn't like the old culture at Twitter, so he was going to get rid of it. And it's a very common thing in corporate America that, you know, the king is dead, long live the king. You know, and so I've seen it a lot. I'm not saying it's right, but it happens.
Yeah, and I think that you know, part of what Musk is doing is exactly what Tim said. He's making a cultural change, and so there is, you know, a lot of people won't agree with it, but basically he's making it very clear. This is what we were. This is what we're gonna be. People who want to be in what we're gonna be, this is what that looks like. Come on. If you don't like that, please stay away. I think what he didn't expect is that customers would respond to his methods in the way that they did.
Alistair Dickinson says, "I would work at Twitter. It's going to be amazing."
You know, if one of the difference also is if you're out of work, are you really going to make a choice to say, you know, I'm out of work, I need to pay the mortgage, I've been given a job offer at Twitter, it's going to pay my mortgage, I'm not going to go there because of something, you know, and I realize that some people may think that, but other people may say, well, actually, I'm going to take the job.
Yeah, but you know, and I know companies have been making layoffs for years. It just seems bigger than ever right now.
It does. It does.
And so when you're in that position and it's the difference between paying the mortgage or not, you might be forced to make that choice. But then do you make that choice knowing that you'll never really feel like you're part of that company because you could be laid off?
Yeah, I mean, I've worked for organizations for 10 years where every month I went by, I was, oh, that's another month. And you know, it's an interesting way of working. I do agree with you, Alex, and the fact that there's been a big change. Back in the 90s, when people were laying people off, if you got laid off, you didn't tell anybody about it.
Right.
Now you come on to social media and you tell everybody about it. And
Yeah.
and so even if you lay one person off, everybody knows. And I don't think this is sunk into these organizations. That, I mean, I agree with you, Eric, which is people are going into meetings and say, we reduce cost or whatever, or everybody else is laying off, we'll lay off. But they don't actually understand that there's new digital repercussion that everybody's going to know.
Yeah.
And that actually has an impact, because there will be people that will say, I'm not going to work at Twitter because I don't want to work for Elon Musk. And some people will make that choice. And you will restrict your talent because of it.
I want to bring the conversation back to the audience we intended to speak directly to today. And that is those that have no say in the board at Twitter, those that are actively looking for their next opportunity. If it's about who knows what you know, what are 3 action steps that they can take? These are things that I had jotted down from some of the things that were said earlier. We talked about LinkedIn profile aligned with the resume. To me, that says be approachable. We talked about connecting with recruiters. I would go one step further and say connect with your industry peers. Be sociable. And then I also heard talk about content. Build great content. Be generous. So as somebody who's on the lookout for their next opportunity, how do we take actions on those 3 things? Being approachable, being sociable, and being generous.
Well, recently I just did some work to ensure my recommendations on LinkedIn are up to date and relevant, focusing on 2 areas specifically. So I knew the people that I'd want to go to ask. Thankfully, they both agreed, and I now have that on my profile. I think that's a great way.
Forget
Great
about
advice,
that. Absolutely. That is
Yeah,
tremendous.
You go into a lovely, like if you're looking for a job, it's the most important thing in your life.
Yeah.
And we know now that digital is the most important channel for you finding a job. Social media and digital. So therefore, sit down and make sure that your digital presence, your digital profiles are the best you can make them. The best you can make them. They stand out, they're warm, they're friendly, they're approachable, they've got amazing recommendations. If I open 2 potential candidates, we know that they're finding recruits on social media. If I open Alex and Lemwood, they both have the same kind of experience. I look down at the bottom. Alex has got 15 recommendations saying that he was a fantastic employee. He worked out with his own department. He was we had to let him go because of X, Y, and Z. It was nothing to do with him. He was great. And there's like 15 of those. And Lemwood's got none. Who am I going to continue the conversation with?
Yeah, Jess makes a great comment. Recommendations trump references for me.
Oh my goodness, yeah. She also said, look what happened to Clark Griswold's boss in National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Watch out, guys, which is probably the most profound comment we have on this. So that whole thing about making sure that your digital presence outshines anybody that might be looking for the kind of jobs that you're looking for is absolutely key. And then supporting that with a content rhythm that is catching people's eyes. I spoke to a guy the other day who started Being Social a year ago and has built up a cadence of cross-industry content. He uses the kind of ABC model. He puts out assistance content that helps people in the kind of fields. He's not giving away the crown jewels to what all of his expertise is, but he puts out helpful content. About 25% of his content is that. His next thing is about beliefs. Why should anybody believe that he's an expert and specialist? So he puts out a bunch of content which is all about that, about 25%. And then 60% of his content is core content. That doesn't work. 20%, 60%. There you go. 60% of his content is all about the core. All the stuff, thought leadership material around the industries and markets and sectors that he wants to be known in. And he keeps that cadence going. Then all of a sudden he gets someone who contacts him and says, we like the look of your content. We'd like to talk to you. directly from an organization, not a recruiter, an HR department. We've observed that you are active in this space. We love your content. Your profile looks great. You're well recommended. Can you come in and talk to us? Bingo.
Yeah, no, you can go right past the gatekeeper.
Yeah.
That's
If I can mention in this book,
is it this book that you're mentioning?
that's one. Yeah, sorry. In that book, I went out to Robert Turl, who's one of the leading headhunters here in the UK. He does recruitment for B2B enterprise people. And I said to him, I want you to write to me what you need to do in the world today to get a job. What are you looking for? And he wrote me 2,000 words. It's a lovely piece about the importance of being digital. But what he said is that I'm looking for people that's candidates that clearly understand what it's like to be digital in the world today. That's the type of person that I'm looking for. So he said, if a LinkedIn profile is a CV, generally he'll pass on. He's looking for someone to make a comment. So all the things that Eric has been talking about, I'm looking for someone that writes about themselves and are as a presence, but are not boastful. I'm looking for someone with recommendations, as Alex said. I'm looking for somebody that is creating content not in a brochures and a brochureware way, but is actually creating the content and taking the time to do that.
Yeah.
While I know that we can be biased about this, here's a headhunter, one of the top headhunters in the UK for the tech sector, tech market, and this is what he's looking for. What's that book you've got there, Eric?
Talk about community in a commercial environment in action. One of my favorite parts of this book is that lovely section on page 71 and 72. There's just something about it. I don't know why. Sorry.
So what about the networking part of the 3 steps? What about being sociable? For so many, networking is a cringeworthy word. What does networking look like in today's digital age?
I think it's a cringy word because we've made it cringy. Networking is the lifeblood of everything. It's beautiful. It should be beautiful. Networking is a professional. It's a professional mission. We've only made it kind of like naff because we've been naff about it. Networking is absolutely essential and phenomenal. It always has been.
Yeah.
It just so
If
happens
you can build up your influence, okay, if you can build up your influence, then that becomes a currency that you use. You can reach out and to someone that you want to bring closer to you, and you can make a deposit.
Careful, Linwood. Careful. Tim's writing a blog about that right now.
You can make a deposit. You can make a deposit. I mean, that to me, that is one of the best things that you can do, because there's a law of reciprocity where you go and you give to people and you're helping them by bringing your influence and giving them some of it. And then they will respond by coming back to you and giving to you.
That's
So
beautiful.
it's something that will feel so good too when you realize that you have that power, that you can do that, and that you can go out and you can use this proactively. I mean, it's it's beautiful, and it's tremendous, and I do it every day.
Networking was always, let's get back to what was networking about. Professional people coming together, sharing ideas, learning about new things, expanding their horizons, and essentially meeting new people and forming relationships. That's what it's always been about. Now, there's murky, horrible ways of doing that, and we've kind of got fed up with those, sitting around plates of curly sandwiches, cheese sandwiches with name tags on, and watching horrendous 30-minute people reading out slides and things like that. Networking was always about human beings who have skills and experience to share, coming together to share those and learning, and then hopefully ending up in a bit of commercial interaction. Now, we might do less of it round plates, cardboard plates with curly cheese sandwiches now, because we're all in digital. And I find that there's a beautiful. We work with lots of different age ranges of people, and there's a natural assumption that young people are going to be great on digital, and in the main they are. They're more digitally attuned. They understand the language. They understand a little bit more than perhaps people of a certain age that have come through, like baby boomers and things like that, and Gen X's and things like that. So they might be more, comfortable with the tech of social media. But actually, what I've found is, and I'm going to get rotten cabbages thrown at me here, is the older people are slightly better at the whole idea of actually networking and forming relationships with people, because they've had to do it. They've gone into a room full of 100 people with a glass of wine put on a little plastic hook on the side of a plate, and had to walk into a group of 20 people and go, "Hi, my name's Rob. What do you do? Yeah, where are you from? Blah, blah, blah," and chat and get to know each other, and not just go, "Hi, brochure." You actually understand that. So I find now that the slightly older people, or people that have done old school 90s, 80s kind of networking, can actually get to the point, right? So the digital thing's not just about post and leave. The digital thing's about actually doing the networking piece in digital form. Being friendly, being sociable, chatting to people, asking them how their day's been, how's your projects looking, and all of that.
Getting to the place of conversation is the key.
Yeah.
You can have those you can have conversations digitally, and then those conversations you bring those conversations offline. But it's having the ability to engage in conversations, and it's not just. And this is the thing: it's not just about the content that you're creating, generating conversations. It's going out to other people and their content. And when you do that, you are bringing your network with you. I mean, it's happening invisibly. That is why the digital networking is 100x more powerful than traditional networking, because all the friction's gone on
yeah. And you're able to scale and do it globally.
Yeah.
But do you remember what it was first like when you had your first networking experience?
Digital experience or
in person?
So, oh, it's so hard.
Yeah,
I loved it. I loved it. I was
so hard because every time you come with your card, you have to go through this explaining the whole story. Each time. Okay, so you get to 5-10 people, you're exhausted. Right. Okay. So let's compare how that works with digital.
Can I just time out for a second, because we got 2 minutes there.
Yeah. Good point.
And I want to say to Rob and the audience. So Rob has put this together, right? Mm-hmm. He is the person he's come up with the question. So if the audience, if you think Rob has done a good job, can you put a comment that Rob's done a good job? Because he's put this together. He's put the questions together. He put the format together. He put he's created a new logo. He's done loads and loads of work. Hasn't he done a brilliant job? And if you could basically thank him in the chat.
He's done all of that whilst flying a plane.
Yeah. I mean, Rob, this is it's awesome.
Well, yeah. I appreciate it, Tim. I really enjoy doing it, and it wouldn't exist if it weren't for you and the greater audience. I am hoping that this can be beneficial to those that are watching now and those that they tag in and say, go back and watch that, because this will be available on a number of other channels as we go forward. I hope there are some nuggets there for those that are.
Rob, take a bow. Look at the comments coming in.
You can't see them, Tim.
Yeah, that's right.
Amazing job, Rob. Thank you from Jess, and Rob has done a great job, as have all of you. Says,
but also, if you are looking for a job and you need help, you can certainly reach out to me. I'm sure any one of the people on here will be happy to help
Absolutely.
you. to get it together so that you can make a better, I don't want to say make a better presentation, but help you to do what you need to do on digital to present
Yes.
yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
I offer networking without that nasty aftertaste.
No curly cheese sandwiches.
Yes, so Andrew Slessor says, well done, Rob. The new screen looks fantastic.
Yeah, I really like that background too. And
Rob,
the new
you did a
logo.
cracking job. I've enjoyed listening and reflecting on the conversation with you and the rest of the crew.
I had the social dream last night. Andrew Slessor and I have known each other digitally for over a year now, and we met last night.
In the social dream?
We actually met in person. I think it was. Sometimes the two worlds collide for me. I'm sure I met him and we hugged. And he gave me a little gift because I'm known as Darth Doyle on another LinkedIn Live stream that I do because of my abrasiveness on certain prize givings and because I have a propensity for The Mandalorian and Baby Grogu. He gave me a little phone holder.
Oh, lovely.
He bought that as a gift for me, and I was overwhelmed, and it was lovely to meet him and Beth and Jenny Fife and Scott Petrie. It was wonderful. So we
I hear they won.
They did. They won, and I got
the quiz.
dog's abuse for this because I was the quiz master, and the Burrito Yum Yums won the quiz.
On that note, I think I need to wrap this up a bit. Again, it has been my pleasure to work on this. Thank you so much, Eric, Alex, Lenwood, Tim. It has been an honor to work with you today. To anyone out there that could use a little help in their job search, please reach out to us. We're happy to do what we can. And we look forward to speaking with everyone again next week on the Digital Download, the longest running weekly business talk show on LinkedIn. Thank you all.
Great.
Well done, everybody.
Well done.
Great session. Thank you to the audience.